think he's done it, hasn't he?
He has done it by some measure. So the pressure is off him. But here is the grid in full then. Ammer Muller from Tim, Eng, Engelhardt. Then it's Muller, Backler, Renauer, Zoechling, Di Filippi and Norbert Seidler. The first 5 rows of what is a huge grid for the Porsche Carrera Cup at Deutschland. And then to the next page, it's Pieter Schothurst, Jaap van Lagen. We were having a conversation with him this morning, Koen Leddegar, Jeffrey Schmidt, Robert Lucas, Fabian Tuner, Christopher Burkhan, Nicolas Kentenich, Ola Nielsen, returning Ola Nielsen, great to see him back, and Antti Bury. And Lucas Schreier, Clemens Schmidt, Rolf van Eycken, we've just seen being pushed into the pit lane, Mike Halder, Christopher Gerhard, Wolf Nathan, who had a coming together yesterday with Ralph Bone, Felix Wimmer, Patrick Eiserman, Daniel Alleman and Ralph Bone involved in that Wolf Nathan incident yesterday. Then it's Bill Barazetti, who was on the podium for the B category, Mike Keller also, Elliot Earhart, Ronald van der Laar, and bringing up the rear, Alex Ramirez.
Christopher Gerhard we saw being pushed off the grid. He's at the end of the pit lane ready to go. Rolf van Eycken's car did not get to the pit lane.
No.
The marshals have pushed that to a refuge point outside the pit entry line. Rolf van Eycken will not start.
Okay, well, we have been so used to seeing him in the B category top step of the podium. It's not going to be the case today.
Now this is Michael Ammer Muller. This is the pole man. This is the man that's had 5 race wins this year. He cannot be caught, cannot be equalled in wins. Nicky Tim will line up second on the grid. His dad, of course, a former DTM champion. And Philip Eng, former single-seater racer, came out of Formula BMW, won the Formula 2 championship then, heading up to the grid for third. And Philip Eng is somebody else who shopped around a little bit over the last few years, trying to find the right career move. He's found it in Porsches. You could argue that Carrera Cup Deutschland these days is actually more competitive than Super Cup. It is a much bigger grid. It's a very, very competitive field, and 18 laps about to get underway. This promises to be the Carrera Cup race of the season.
I agree with you. The anticipation is building, the engine note will rise. Of course, for those at the front of the grid, so too the anxiety and the tension, because it's a jolly long while before the back of the grid gets into their grid position. That means it's a jolly long while that the volunteer marshal, of whom we thank for all the marshals, because without them we wouldn't be here racing, will wave his green flag and give the indication to the starter that we can get the race underway. And there you can see the final one goes in. There is the marshal with the green flag. And we are about to go racing. As David has said, this could be the most exciting Carrera Cup race of the year. And Nicky Tim gets a great start. Ammer Muller quite quickly away as well. Eng straight across to block Christian Engelhardt as they head into turn 1. Sven Muller already up there. And Sven Muller goes off the track.
He was ahead of Eng, which is bad, but is he going to give back the place as they work their way up towards us? No, he's not. He's not played the game, and nor is Nicky Tim on the outside line. So Ammer Muller leads. Now look at Eng up the inside of Sven Muller. And is he going to be able to get up alongside? No, he slots into 4th place, but Nicky Tim wants to win the race. This is not in the game plan. And suddenly, if Ammer Muller has to go defensive, he's in as much jeopardy as Eng is.
Okay, so this we didn't factor the fact that Sven Muller would be in his own race here, did we? We just expected him, unless he's going to go up there to cause trouble.
Could be, but Nicky Tim is about to do that for him because he's attacking Ammer Muller for the lead. He goes wide, Eng up to 3rd. And look at Tim round the outside all over the curb. He's going to drive straight past Michael Ammer Muller into the lead of the race. They almost touch. Ammer Muller in the black car on the inside line gets back into the lead. Fantastic first lap, isn't it?
And Eng, of course, has got back as we see Walter Lechner on the pit perch there. Sven Muller in a little bit of strife there, but Eng is sticking with them.
3 wide for 4th. You've got Engelhardt and Zerkling trying to buy into this as well. Way wide goes Engelhardt. But Ammer Muller leads the way. Now, Eng has got himself, he's now done, deliberately or otherwise, is lose so much time that even if people get past him, they're going to really struggle to catch up with Eng.
You're right. And I wonder whether the opening part of the lap and all the action in the opening part of the lap was worthy of an actor's award, because it was just a little bit of playing going on.
Well, possibly. I think Muller wanted to prove to Eng that he's got the pace.
Right.
It may also have been that there came a radio call to say, just get on with this. Whether they have radios in these cars, not sure. They don't in the UK Carrera Cup GB cars, but it certainly is the case now, look, that Muller has lost ground, shall we put it that way, against the opposition. But Nicky Tim is going to have a go at Ammer Muller. The only good thing about this is that somehow Eng might get caught up in it and get delayed. But Ammermuller does not need to be defending from his teammate. The trouble is, he can do no more than win the race. He now is utterly dependent on the result of Philipp Eng.
And that must be awful, mustn't it? Because, as you say, whatever he does out there on track, perhaps with the exception of leaning on Philipp Eng if they were together, you know, he cannot control the result, can he?
The only thing Ammermuller now can do is try and reduce his pace and somehow stack Eng back towards Muller and the traffic. The trouble is Muller will then slow down a little bit as well. So Ammermuller has got to be really intelligent here. He's not just making the car wide to try to hang on to the lead to win a race. He's got to think as best he can about the championship situation. But what he may not know is which yellow car that is in third place. He may not be able to see, because he's doing everything else, exactly the size of that gap in one little split-second look in the mirror. He's got a really tough job here.
He has. Well, at the moment, despite the pressure, and I know you'll be watching the lap times very, very closely, but I do think that Muller is now beginning to reel the leading trio back in a bit.
You're dead right, because he's just done the best lap of the race, and he's 6/10 quicker than those ahead of him.
Oh, and Tim is going for a move. They are going to... Oh, so close to being in contact there.
Ammermuller has got the inside line for the next corner. He really uses the curve, but he forces his team out wide. Philipp Eng is going to get up into second place, and that's going to even increase his advantage in the championship post-event. Now, unless they make contact here, Nicky Tim has just done Ammermuller no favours whatsoever. Here they come up towards the Parabolica. White car on the inside, his team. Yellow car, Eng on the outside. And he can't drive all the way around the outside there. Team has good traction out of the corner. Tries to attack Ammermuller once again, and right up behind him is Eng. Then it is Muller, Engelhardt, Zirkling. And the Walter Lechner Racing team have not had a breath, I think, for about 2 laps.
Would Eng not be better off thinking, I'm not going to buy into this, I'm not going to try and get past him, he doesn't need to, and he is jeopardising himself, surely?
You're right about that. Peter Schotthorst's incontinent car pushed away, dribbling fluid as it goes. That's out of the race, unfortunately. The Dutchman, who's never really quite gelled this season, and he ends the season on a sad note as well. Right, now it is, what, 7 for the race lead? Go back to Klaus Bachler. He's part of this leading group as well. And Nicky Tim is giving Michael Ammermuller a huge workover. I just wonder whether he's actually ever going to really try and get through into the lead, or whether this is all to say to Ammermuller, I'm quicker than you, I could do this, but I'm playing the game.
Yeah, Van Lagen's round.
He is.
And that, if that car is stalled where it is... Oh, and there's another one involved there. That's Ola Nilsson.
This could be safety car, couldn't it? Certainly the way that Nilsson's car's on the edge of the road. Right, Van Lagen gets it wrong, doesn't he? He goes off through the gravel. Programs in the sat-nav, but by that stage, all the arms are twisted around. He comes across the road and bang, into Ola Nilsson. Nilsson, the innocent victim in that.
Yes,
that was Van Lagen's error.
I agree. There's the fluid from the Pieter Schotthorst car.
And there's the contact.
I really feel for Ola there, because he's just back into the championship, isn't he? He was involved in something there that was of none of his making.
Not his fault at all. Safety car is deployed. The safety car is on track.
Let's bring some more drama into this.
Well done, Yap. You've really helped the case here.
He's really bent the back end of that car. Contact with Nilsson, hasn't he? Car has been worked on quite a lot over the course of this weekend. OK, safety car coming out now then. And whilst all this is developing, as you quite rightly said, you've got a big, big battle up front now, haven't you? Going all the way back to P7, which is Bachler. Because Christopher Zöchling, then it's Christian Engelhardt, both Conrad Motorsport drivers. Muller and Eng are together. They're both Project 1 Motorsport drivers. Then we have Team and Ammermuller, of course, the Lechner cars. And I wonder whether Tim actually, what he's doing here is just pushing Ammermuller to make sure he, you know, keeps ahead and actually pulls his finger out and gets up the road, because he is quicker than him. He's doing a protection role, but insofar as he's really pushing him as hard as he can.
And as I said before, the safety car, he's leaving people in no doubt that he's got the pace to win this race, hasn't he? Let's have a replay of the start. Watch Eng off the line, because the first thing he does, quite understandably, he's moved to the pit wall, look to block Engelhardt, but what that does is leave the door wide open to Muller, who think...
Because Muller had got ahead of Eng, hadn't he?
Yeah, and Tim briefly led. Eng up the inside of Muller. That looked orchestrated. I'm not sure Amma Muller on Tim was quite as easy a pass. I'm still trying to work out exactly what Skotthorst did to damage the #1 McGregor liveried car. This was Muller being forced out wide by Backler, so up the inside came Engelhardt, look, and that became the outside for the next corner. So we're behind the safety car while Ola Nilsson's wreck is removed, but the safety car is going to be in this time. So a brief interlude in the race.
And here is the championship prediction. Now, yesterday you were ahead of the championship prediction, as you so often are. It's 233, plays at 231, so absolutely correct in that, you know, it's Eng's to throw away, really, isn't it?
As I said, if Amma Muller wins, Eng has to be third to win the championship. He is third. He can just sit there now, and he's got the protection of Sven Muller behind him. So what has to happen for Amma Muller is that people get past Muller and then attack Eng. So Hans Bergkamp's team is in the box seat at the moment. The Lechner guys, in the meantime, are trying to magic something out of thin air.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And what they really need is him, Nicky Thiem, to back them all up, doesn't he?
Exactly.
And let there be some fights behind, and hopefully Eng gets involved in that, and Amma Muller, in the meantime, is away up the road.
Their other hope is that on this restart, Christian Engelhardt is on his toes and makes a move against Muller going to turn 1. And if he can get past quickly, he's got a chance of catching up and attacking Eng while the pack is still bunched together.
Well, it's looking close as they are away. Amma Muller backed them all up. And now Engelhardt is on the back of Muller. And Engelhardt takes a look up the inside. He's not going to be close enough to do it. But he certainly took a look as they all come through this brief safety car period that we had. The order, Amma Muller, Thiem, then it is Eng, then it is Muller, and Christian Engelhardt looking very, very racy here. And so too Christopher Zoechling right behind him.
And then Klaus Backler 7th, Robert Renauer is 8th, Norbert Siedler is 9th, Comme Ledegaard, the French ace, is 10th, as the leaders then pair off once again. Nicky Thiem is not dropping away, and he is not stacking up Philipp Eng. He has just done the absolute best first sector of anybody in the race, and he's attacking Amma Muller once again. Here they come up towards the parabolica, or out of the parabolica to the hairpin, and Thiem makes a mistake and goes wide. He keeps his second position, and there's still nobody really coming up to challenge Sven Muller. Eng is having everything go his way.
He is. It is this stage being gifted in his direction, isn't it? What surprises me here, and every time we look at it, we read something different into it, and that's the Amma Muller Thiem relationship in this race.
Yeah, I'm not sure that relationship is going to be the word post-race, because I think Amma Muller would feel that Thiem has not really done enough here. Nicky Thiem does seem to be ignoring the team's situation and trying to go for himself, doesn't he? But as they work their way now into the stadium, the gap has opened up ever so slightly between the top two. And there, look, you've got Engelhardt under attack from Zoechling. So the two of them running together, the German ahead of the Austrian as they come up towards the end of the lap. But that's not what we need either, or not what Amma Muller needs, because that's taking people away from Muller.
Well, we are still in the early stages of this race. There is a long way to go yet, but the 1, 2, 3 then all have margins of comfort between them. I think Engelhardt on Muller is going to be the next real bit of excitement, and Engelhardt takes a look, just dives up. He's trying to unsettle Sven Muller, isn't he?
He is, and you can see the way that Muller, partly by defending, is losing touch with Eng, and therefore the gap is widening 3rd to 4th. So even if Engelhardt can go through, he then has quite a bit of real estate to make up. Here he is, he's going to have a go, he's close enough. This could be on, coming up to the hairpin.
So around the parabolica then, side by side, Sven Muller and Christian Engelhardt. And once again, Nicky Thiem chooses to go for the long outside line here, then try and get the switch back with better traction, better momentum, but he doesn't have it. Amma Muller doing really well through the hairpin.
4th had changed up to the hairpin, but coming out of the corner, Muller is back ahead. So briefly, Engelhardt had the grunt to get ahead of him. The two race leaders absolutely nose to tail. And look at 4th place. Sven Muller has got the traffic behind him. Philipp Eng, I think now, is measuring his pace. He could be right up with those two leaders, but I don't think he wants to get that close.
No, he's choosing not to be, isn't he? And that's probably very, very wise driving from Eng. It's, you know, it's all going his way at the moment. And, of course, if these two should come to grief ahead of him, does nothing but actually reinforce his position.
And as we say, he does not want to be in that sticky situation, does he? So he wants to keep out of trouble as the leaders work their way through the stadium once again, then heading up towards the Sud Curve. Nicky Thiem back onto the tail of Ammermuller. Eng then third, and the traffic jam for fourth. Sven Muller, who is doing a good team job, keeping everybody else, keeping the opposition stacked up behind him.
Is Thiem going to go for a move now? Don't think he's close enough into turn one. The Nordkurve. Absolutely throw these Porsches over that curve. Don't they?
Yeah.
And he's not going to play the team game.
But Ammermuller, in fairness then, is doing a good job of repelling those advances. See, there's a bit of a witness mark on the side of Muller's car. Somebody off there coming out of the Mercedes Tribune. And there's the drama, because you've got an Attempto car, and this is going to be the safety car again, because in the middle of the road sits Mike Halder, and he's got broken suspension, and that ain't going anywhere in a hurry. This will bring out the safety car for the second time. I'm confident of that. That's got a lot of damage as the smoke clears. Safety car is deployed, look. Second safety car period. I hope it's been refueled.
Well, just ahead of that incident, you can see it unfurl there.
Oh. Ribberas spun, others took evasive action, and it was Mike Halder who sort of flung the car off the road in avoidance and hit the wall very hard indeed. Yeah, but Ribberas, who gets away with it, he was the trigger, he was the catalyst.
Yes. That was a big impact.
It was, wasn't it?
Just before that happened, Clemens Schmidt was under investigation for actually overtaking during the previous safety car period.
Robert Lucas was the other driver involved in that, as you can see, but that is a very sorry Porsche indeed. There's not much give in that concrete wall. The driver's door won't open.
Good to see that Mike is getting out of the car.
Yeah, but it's been quite a few minutes since the impact happened, so Mike Halder a bit shaken, but now that he's been able to extricate himself from the belts, over the roll cage, across the car, thumbs up, he's okay, but with the door not being able to open, he's okay. He's actually, as a young gun in the championship, progressed nicely over the course of the season. It's a shame that the year ends badly for him like this. Wolf Nathan's race yesterday ended prematurely, and it's happened again, by the look of it, with another punctured radiator.
Now, you know, seeing that there reinforces the fact that whilst, you know, we've seen just how they really aggressively throw these Porsches around, they do have danger areas, don't they? And the front end of the car is the danger area because of the radiators.
It's right at the very front, and therefore it doesn't take much, just a little tap of somebody if they break a fraction early, or if you get too close and it can do the radiator. Yes, it can be very spectacular, as we saw at Lausitzring. Remember the first chicane accident that we had? I think it was Robert Lucas involved in that, with his fountain-esque distribution of the water from the radiator when he made contact with Nicky Thiem, and it did the damage. Well, there is the race leader, Michael Ammermuller. He may, on this evidence, not be the champion, but he's going to go down fighting. He's had more race wins than anybody. He's going to add to that tally, seemingly here. Everybody trying to weave around to keep the warmth in the Michelin tyres. At this pace, it won't actually do a great deal to keep the temperature there, but psychologically, from a driver's point of view, it's worth doing.
Now, Engelhardt will feel that he's got another chance now, won't he?
Yes.
With everyone bunched up once again, it's going to be a little while before that safety car is in, because they're still awaiting the truck to recover the stricken car.
Now, this is the start of it. This is Ribberas, who's run wide at one corner, touches the curb at the next, slides. Robert Lucas gets sideways in avoidance, and so coming into shot now, look up against the left-hand side of the screen, because Mike Halder tries to squeeze past Lucas and has nowhere to go, really, except into the concrete. Lucas clips the concrete wall as well, but a side impact has absolutely done for the suspension on Mike Halder's car. And he clambers out the right-hand side of it. Definitely the race run. And you can see the liquid coming onto the road as well. So that will have to be treated. This could be actually not only a long safety car period, but relatively few racing laps at the end of it, because we're going to go to time, I would think now, rather than laps.
Just under 17 minutes left.
Yeah.
It could be a frantic fight to the finish, couldn't it?
Could it just? So we're behind the safety car. The race order, which you've not caught up on of late. Michael Ammermuller leads Nicky Thiem, Philipp Eng third, Sven Muller fourth, Christian Engelhardt fifth, Christopher Zirkling sixth, Klaus Bachler seventh, Robert Renauer is eighth, Norbert Siedler is 9th, Colm Ledegar 10th, Lucas Schreier is 11th, Conor De Filippi is a subdued 12th after a spin yesterday, 13th Clement Schmidt, 14th is Jeffrey Schmidt, 15th is Christopher Berkan, in 16th place Nicholas Kentenich, 17th Antti Burri, 18th Fabien Tuner, 19th Daniel Alaman, 20th Elliot Earhart, 21st Felix Wimmer, 22nd is Bill Barazetti, 23rd is Ralph Bone, and 24th after his spin is Alex Ribaras. Field turning their way through for lap 10 out of 18. Safety car boards are still there. The yellow flags are still waved. You can't overtake while the safety car is in situ like this. And the reason for it, of course, is to enable the race to continue, albeit under controlled conditions, whilst the incident is attended to. But it's been a very lively race thus far. This was lap 1 at the hairpin as they all scrabbled round. Golden chance to make up position, but Nicky Tim's efforts are as well to preserve that gap.
Well, maybe.
You know,
yeah.
If Engelhardt were ahead of Muller, it might be a different situation, because that's genuine opposition to Eng, isn't it?
Yeah.
But until that pass happens, if it ever happens, we'll never know, will we?
No.
But for now, hats off to Amar Muller, because he's had a real workover in this race, and he has had perhaps more pressure than he anticipated. And as they work their way up towards the hairpin, Philip Eng will be quite happy for the race to finish like this under the safety car, because the title's his.
And just to go over old ground, of course, it was only going into this race, the news that came out some days ago that Philip Eng, who had his points taken away from Spielberg in Austria earlier in the year, the Red Bull Ring, well, you can see Ola Nielsen down there with... there is Paul Schlottmann, and to Paul Schlottmann's right is Hans Bernd Kamps, the team boss. But Philip Eng's points from Red Bull Ring were zeroed. The team went to appeal the decision. A protest was made by another team, and interestingly, the protest actually got thrown out because of having been incorrectly administered. Okay. So Eng gets his points back. The safety car is coming in. Can just see from my commentary booth position, and that's why Eng is now, you know, firmly back in this championship race. No, I beg your pardon, it wasn't the safety car, it was a course car that had been out, so my apologies. Track sweeper is out there now. Of course, the safety car is going to stay out there whilst that... you made the point, David, so much fluid having gone down, that was going to have to be looked at as well. So that's why Eng is back in this championship. You know, if it had gone the other way, and perhaps the appeal had been heard and a decision had been made, then Eng may not even be in the championship hunt. But he is, and at the moment is, dare I say it, sitting pretty where he is in P3. So all the cars weaving from side to side in anticipation of the clean-up operation to be completed as quickly as possible. We have 12.5 minutes left in terms of duration of this race on lap 11 of 18, as you can see at the top of your screen, and the marshals working hard there to clear up the fluid that's been dropped by those cars involved in that collision. And presumably as soon as that is done and hoovered up effectively, the safety car will be back into the pit lane and the race will recommence. And I can't help but feel it is going to be what we would term a dash for cash at the end of this race. We will see. Amar Muller leads from team, from Eng, Muller, Christian Engelhardt, Zoechling, then it's a whole heap of Porsches behind, but it is the front of the order that we're concerned with. We lost Rolf Inneshen right at the start of the race. His car failed on the grid, and we thought was being pushed back so that he could get a pit lane start, but that wasn't the case. It was put back to safety, and Rolf is not actually in this race. Just a shame for him to end the season, having been so dominant in the B category, to end the season with a non-finish. Yeah, Ralph Bone, who you talked about earlier, damaged yesterday. He had a 3-place grid drop on the grid. He was deemed to be at fault yesterday. Lap 12 of the 18 we are on, 11 more minutes to go. And this, the 25th year of the Carrera Cup Deutschland, and in that history, and
it's a bit of a who's who of Porsche racing if you look back through the champions. Philipp Eng would be the first ever Austrian to win it.
Would he?
Yeah.
Would he really?
We've had...
You are a fountain.
We've had British winner Nick Tandy. We've had a French winner in Kevin S. We've had a whole raft of German victors, but never an Austrian champion.
Well, never.
So it would be a great result for him on a personal level as much as for Austria. And we talk about Ammermuller trying to rebuild a career as a GT driver. The same is true of Philipp Eng. So this title would mean something, that's for sure. So Michael Ammermuller leads the way. A Lechner pair, a Project One pair, and then you've got a Conrad pair running 5th and 6th. The two cars of Engelhardt and Zirkling. And there is Patrick Eiserman, who has been off under the safety car, sheds bodywork as he rejoins, but having a spin behind the safety car doesn't tend to win you many friends with the race officials. Let's try and have a look at what happened. He got himself on the grass, possibly avoiding somebody else who was a bit slower going into turn 1, and just lost it. So round he goes. Yeah, suddenly it was one of the Attempto cars, I think, that was slow, and he flung the car onto the grass and then lost it. Mike Keller thinks, where have you come from? Eiserman was in the gravel yesterday, wasn't he? And he's now had a spin behind the safety car, so hey-ho, he's back on the track.
Even under the safety car, there's never a dull moment, is there?
No, you're right.
When it comes to the Carrera Cup.
It has been a cracking race, and there's more to come because the safety car is in this lap.
So, it will go to time, and by the time the safety car is round, we're going to be 8.5 minutes or so of racing to come. It is going to be fraught and frantic.
Look where Muller is. The next shot, have a look at the second yellow car. Look at the gap that he's allowed to open up already to Eng. Exactly what you're saying about him playing the team game. Look where team is relative to Ammermuller. He's virtually on the parcel shelf.
Yes, he is. You're absolutely right.
Now Ammermuller stacks them up. What he wants is to try and really get Engelhardt into this mix. Now he goes, and Nicky Tim goes with him.
Yes, and funnily enough, Sven Muller appeared to miss a gear then, didn't he? He wasn't quite as...
Just changing the CD, I think.
Sorry.
Let's go racing once more then in this grand finale to Carrera Cup Deutschland 2014. Michael Ammermuller leads the way. We've done 13 laps. And he's 6/10 up on Nicky Thiem. Eng runs third. Champion-elect, very wide goes Muller. This could be Engelhardt's opportunity if he gets the run heading up towards the approach of the Parabolica. Sven Muller in the second yellow car defends. Engelhardt round the outside line. And Backler attacks Zirkling and forces him out wider. That leaves the door wide open for Robert Renauer to come through. Renauer has gained one place. He's on the outside line. He's on the curb as well. But Muller has managed to stay ahead of Engelhardt as now Eng is giving a really energetic work over to Nicky Thiem.
He is, and whilst all that's going on, Sven Muller, despite being off wide, is still playing the team game in holding up Christian Engelhardt. Engelhardt still, despite being gifted that opportunity, he wasn't quite close enough to be able to take advantage. But right behind them, all heck is breaking loose, isn't it?
Get your handkerchief ready because this could end in tears. Backler goes out wide. Renauer is at the inside of him. You've got Zirkling trying to recover in all of this as well as the cars work their way through. Robert Renauer is there. Also, Norbert Siedler has worked his way through that little gaggle of cars as well. And number 17, Lukas Schreier, is there as now again Engelhardt really on his toes. Comes up to challenge Sven Muller. Through the Mercedes Tribune they have come. Lukas Schreier looking pretty racy now, down in the bottom end of the top dozen. But Engelhardt still can't find a way past Sven Muller, but this is his best chance yet. He's right there with him.
He is, and he's going to get very, very frustrated shortly, isn't he? He's been held up by Sven Muller all the time, and Engelhardt has tried every which way to have a go and get past Sven Muller. Around the Sud curve they go then, and once again, Engelhardt just could not be any closer to Sven Muller into turn 1.
The gap between them as they go over the timing line is only a 1/10 of a second. This is the replay of the restart where Ammermuller really stacked up Nicky Thiem and made him stand on the anchors. And Walter Lechner utters a few choice words through the headsets as Muller is still ahead of Engelhardt. Look, the two of them are together. The gaps have opened up finally between the top three.
Yes.
Nicky Thiem has now dropped back, but equally Eng is falling away from him. And a massively frustrated Christian Engelhardt, who's definitely got the car speed, yesterday's winner, cannot find a way past Sven Muller in the world's widest 991.
Here he goes. Now he will hope to dive up the inside here And there might be just a little bit of a touch. Come on, Christian Engelhardt, is he going to do it? He's got the traction, he's got the momentum, but he hasn't quite got enough. Well, you cannot deny that Christian Engelhardt has thrown absolutely everything at trying to get past Muller. But credit to Muller, he is, well...
Oh, mistake, he's gone wide, he locks up. Engelhardt made a mistake as well, but now he's got an opportunity because he's got the momentum. He's on the outside line, he still can't take advantage of that. So close. Engelhardt then now getting even more frustrated. He made a small mistake as well because he was judging his pace against Muller, so they both got it wrong.
And he couldn't capitalise, therefore, on the mistake that Muller made. Muller is, I have to say, is driving this. Now, Engelhardt, but he's going to be in the wrong position now for the next corner, or is he? Has he got the momentum?
He's not. Muller is getting ragged. Finally, you've just seen in 2 corners, 2 mistakes. The pressure is telling.
It's too late, though, isn't it?
Yeah, because the gap is opening up. He's doing it all right. You know, he's keeping Engelhardt at bay, but he is getting more and more ragged as they come over the timing line. Engelhardt looking a little bit stronger now because he's not falling away, is he? He's not got through, but he's staying glued to the back of Muller. Now, Engelhardt runs wide, but that will give him better car speed going up towards the approach to the Parabolica. Can he dive up the inside? Not there, he can't. He's going to have to try at the hairpin. It's interesting, though, that Muller seems to have better drive out of the corners.
Well, when you consider that Muller has had to drive a huge percentage of this race via the rearview mirror, Daniel Aleman.
I fear this will be a red flag, Dave, because the safety car is out, but with the amount of time left in the race to clear that incident and those wrecked cars...
Ain't going to happen, is it?
We're not going to do it. Aleman and Ralph Bone in 23, and there's another car off in the background.
It's one of the Lechner cars.
Yeah, trying to identify. The safety car will be called for, but I can't see this being cleared up before the end of the race. Let's try and piece it together. Who's that goes off first of all? 28, that's Clement Schmidt. Schmidt spins. Others scatter in avoidance. Does he get hit? Yes, by Bone. Bang! That's a huge impact. That is big. That's a big impact. There's debris. There's going to be liquid on the road. Red flag. The race is stopped. The race is stopped, just like yesterday's, and this is the reason. Wrecked cars and liquid is your champion.
And there, the delight from the Project One team, who, of course, have had to suffer the worry of the protest, and Eng lights that car up sideways. That was absolute. Look at him punching the air inside the car. There is Hans Bernd Kamps. And, of course, dare I say this, I think it's right that I should, following the immense sadness there was around that team with the loss of Sean Edwards last year, they have some success this year with Philipp Eng.
You have to have some sympathy, though, for Michael Ammermuller, who has done everything possible in that race to hang on in there to score the win. But Philipp Eng had a good start to the season. Michael Ammermuller was a bit hit and miss at the start of the year. And so when you take all 18 races into consideration, Philipp Eng it is who takes the championship. And he takes the championship by 2 points. He will be a delighted man, the first Austrian champion of Carrera Cup Deutschland. There he is, Philipp Eng has done it. And the relief, but also Eng did a perfect drive. He kept out of trouble, didn't he? He knew exactly what had to be done, and he did it. Yesterday's race was about points and about keeping out of trouble. Today, he needed to be a bit feisty early on to sort out Muller, but after that, just drove perfectly.
What he does need to do is to get a Porsche Carrera Cup hospitality glass of orange juice for Sven Muller, who did a great job for him.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, Sven Muller, of course, is a Porsche Junior driver, so it's not just helping his teammate, it's helping his own career by showing to Porsche that he's an intelligent driver,
yes,
which would be very useful in the long term for a sports car programme. And Michael Ammermuller walked past the celebrations. Philipp Eng, very, very emotional, has the enormity of the moment sink in. It has been a hugely tough season. And Philipp Eng is the champion, but mid-season with the protest after the Red Bull Ring and the points having disappeared, it all looked pretty bleak, but he's come back. And Philipp Eng is the first Austrian to win Carrera Cup Deutschland, and he's absolutely elated. In contrast, Michael Lammermuller thinks, I could do no more.
And in fairness, he couldn't.
No. And if Engelhardt had got past Muller and been able to attack Eng, it would perhaps have been a different